Welcome to the Real Photo Show. Our guests today are Lisa Beard, Micah McCoy, and Vann Thomas Powell, and they joined us at the JKC Gallery at Mercer County Community College to discuss their new collective, Disparate Projects. But before we get to that, this podcast is sponsored by the Charcoal Book Club. Begin building or continue to build your dream photo book library at charcoalbookclub.com. And the club's next book is Gumsucker by Rory King. Gumsucker laments the loss of untamed Australian wilderness to civilization, ever encroaching, domesticating the land and spirit. It is a ghost story of sorts, populated by withering vestiges and isolated souls. Its title, drawn from the archaic term once used to describe native-born European Australians, also recalls the Gumsucker's Dirge, a 19th century poem mourning the erasure of wilderness as the frontier was pushed further out and the dream of an untouched wilderness became increasingly inaccessible. And as of this recording, Gumsucker is available to purchase, but if you were a member, you would have received it automatically. So become a member today at charcoalbookclub.com. All right, everyone, thank you for listening. Enjoy the show, and we will talk soon. Hello, everyone. We are live. Welcome to the JKC Gallery and a Real Photo Show production. I'm Michael Chovan-Dalton. I'm here with my co-host, Dani Paglione, who is checking the live stream for us anywhere. And today I have three artists from everywhere. So they have formed a collective called Disparate Projects, and we're going to talk about how that all came together. But it's Vann Powell, Lisa Beard, and Micah McCoy. Why don't we start with some introductions? Vann, you're right above me on my screen, so why don't you go ahead, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Vann Powell. I'm born and raised North Carolina. Got into photography kind of at a later age. My undergrad was not in photo. My undergrad was in philosophy, which I had the danger of almost going to law school, but in the last moment didn't do that, which was dodging a big bullet, I think, for myself. I started making photographs. I lived abroad teaching English for some time after undergrad, and I used cameras to document what I was doing, people I was hanging out with. But it never really hit me until they found a tumor inside my hip from a bicycle accident. And it kind of was a wake-up call in terms of making something meaningful in my life and creating my own meaning. And so at that moment, I decided I needed to follow the footsteps of my grandma and make some art. And so I picked up the camera in a more, intentional way from that point on.
That's a pretty interesting introduction into, a life-changing moment from something that happened in the past, but then catches up with you. How far into law school did you say you got, or you didn't get into it all?
No, so I took the LSAT, but in the last moment, I decided that after having spoken with some friends who were in law school and maybe a little bit of soul searching, that I don't think it was going to be for me. And at that point, I left and moved abroad to teach English because my undergrad was in philosophy, so there were no philosophy factories to work in. So what was I going to do? I was going to teach. So
yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And you're okay now?
Yeah, no. Yeah. So they've been watching it. It's benign, but I got to tell you, when they first found it, I was 28. I thought I was going to die.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Lisa, tell us about yourself.
Hi. Thank you.
Hi.
So kind of along the same lines as Vann, I didn't get started until a little later with photography. I also didn't have an undergrad degree or a graduate degree in anything related to that, but it is related, but I first majored in undergrad in English and psychology and became a high school English teacher. went back and got an educational administration degree and didn't want to use it. Well, I figured it out after I was done that. It just wasn't, I didn't want to be like a high school principal or anything. And, you know, I've always had an artistic side, but didn't really have a lot of exposure to that sort of stuff when I was younger. I was an athlete, and the older I got, the more I became interested in telling stories, and finally picked up a camera when I was kind of really in the middle of some life changes too. I was getting divorced, I had kids, and really wanted to try, you know, making some pictures, and started while I was teaching English, ironically, with a student of mine, and we started sort of a conceptual project that was a narrative, and it took off from there for me. But I started documenting abandoned spaces. I got really into that and kind of used those spaces as symbols to express what I was feeling. And so did, and then my model, who was a student, came into that with me too. And we started our first series of work, and that's kind of where it all took off for me. I'm really thankful for it, because it is, you know, found my passion. And it was probably in about, actually, I think it was 2015, mid 2015 when we started that. So
wow.
From there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How long were you an English teacher?
Well, a little over 10 years. And now I'm still at the same high school. It's the high school that I attended as a kid. I live in Woodstock, Illinois, which is about 60 miles northwest of Chicago, just under the Wisconsin border. And now I am not an English teacher there, but I'm the library director.
Wow. Yeah. I started picking up a little Midwest accent while you were talking.
I feel like it's really easy to pick up on it. It gets thick. So it's it definitely got the Chicago accent going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did that literature background, English background, does that influence your work, inform your work? You have a bit of, yeah.
Yes, it is a huge part.
We'll talk more about that in a minute. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I know Dani has a few questions about your work.
Okay, great. Yeah. I look forward to them. Yeah.
All right, Micah, you're up.
Yeah, so I was into photography as a pretty small child. Photography was always really important in my family. My mom was still is a avid scrapbooker, you know, documenting our whole, you know, family history, family life. I had a Fisher-Price 110 camera, the teeny little film cartridges that I just loved so much, and enjoyed that when I was a kid. Then kind of got away from it. Like high school, was into music, wanted to be in a band, write songs, that kind of thing. And I always had like that creative drive, but wanted to do that for a while, and you know, wasn't probably as good at it as I needed to be to make it into a lifestyle, which is what I was really looking for, was like to be an artist and live that life. And so I went to University of Illinois for sociology, so I didn't do photo in undergrad. And after that, when my wife and I had our first child, it was like, she got the like good job first, and it was like, what am I gonna do? And I taught myself photography, started doing portraits, weddings, that kind of stuff, but really always like wanted to be an artist and do the weird art stuff. And so finally, a few years back, I went to grad school at Columbia College Chicago, and jumped fully into this world. And it's been a really great experience, and getting back to kind of what I loved as a kid.
Yeah. So, except for you, Van, you know, Lisa and Micah had somewhat indirect paths, and then Van, you had a revelationary moment. So, just to give a little background, I met the three of you at the Homecoming Biennial at RIT in 2023. Is that right? And you were all there in person attending the conference?
Yep.
It was 2023? Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That is wild. And were you were you all there through the portfolio reviews as well?
Yes, or I didn't get to stay for that.
Oh, okay.
I also didn't stay. I had to go
Okay.
back
I did
for
do
some
a
reason I can't
portfolio.
remember.
Yeah, I did a portfolio review. I was the only one that, so the three of us really hit it off, and they both had to take off before the portfolio reviews, and so they kept me out late night the night before, so I got to go to the portfolio reviews after we'd been, up till 3 in the morning in a bar in Rochester talking photography and philosophy and all the things we're into.
Yeah, just to fill the audience in a little bit, I'm one of the founding members of what's called the Homecoming Biennial. We've had 2 of them. One of them was here at the first one was here at the JKC Gallery. I think it was just right after COVID, and so yeah. And then the second one was at RIT, and we expanded it quite a bit that year to have talks and portfolio reviews, and so that's Eric. Eric Kunzman. I know. I'm so bad with names, especially live. Alana Aratom, Donna Sterling, Yoav Friedlander, and myself. I think that's everybody. Yeah. And that's where the 3 of you met.
Yeah.
Did anyone know each other beforehand?
Yeah, me and Van had communicated over, I think it was during the pandemic, we connected over Instagram and started sending messages back and forth, and done a few Zoom calls, that kind of thing. So we had kind of a base level, but you can only get so far in that way. And so we found out we were both going to be attending the Homecoming Biennial, and so I had the rental car first, and so Van messaged me and was like, could you pick me up at the airport? So I did, and then we ended up being together for 3 days after that, pretty much nonstop, and then met Lisa while we were there, and she kind of started tagging along, and we just hit it off so much that we didn't want the weekend to end, and just kept it going.
Yeah, they picked me up in the gallery. They I remember seeing them walking into the gallery during there was an exhibition in the RIT City Space, right? Isn't that where it was?
Yes.
Yeah. And it was funny because I was really nervous about going. So I had looked up as many photographers as I could, basically. And Van and Micah were both people that I really loved their work. And it was funny because I saw these 2 guys walking around, and it was them. And we started talking, and I think we went out for lunch. Didn't we go out for lunch or something at another bar before we went to, yeah. And that was, yes. And then we went back to the talks together, and that's when we all just started hanging out. So I was really grateful that they walked in when they did.
Yeah. And of course I bring that up because here the 3 of you are now. One of the things I try to teach is this idea of networking is not a dirty word, is not something underhanded, as something that's really finding people who you either share interests with and you have respect for what each other do, or maybe you don't even do anything nearly the same or even in the same field, but you have this sort of respect for the way people operate, the way people lead their lives or live their lives, I should say. And that's a connection you can make as well. And so I think, 3 of you are really a great example. It also means I guess you all graduated within a year and a half, 2 years of each other.
Yeah, I was 23.
I was 20, November of 22.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, same.
Yeah. Yep. So why don't we talk about Disparate Projects and then how that starts to come together. Who starts that idea? How the 3 of you, is that something you started talking about at the Homecoming Biennial?
I don't know if it was. I think if I remember correctly, and you guys, help me fill in the gaps, keep me on track. But I think we had hit it off when we were in Rochester and had a good time hanging out, and had a lot of the same ideas and shared a lot of outlooks and perspectives on photography. And so obviously we wanted to keep that going. And Disparate came out of a want to engage others' photography, not our own indirectly. Like, we were going to talk and take away certain things when we talk about photography and, collage them into our own matrix of thought and everything like that. But we were interested in what other people were making. And I think Disparate first came out of a show that we curated for, I want to say, was it Float Magazine?
Yeah. You had been planning a call with Donna, and you had told me about this whenever we were in Rochester, and I already knew Donna before and thought she was great, and was so Vann had kind of approached me early on after that about co-curating, and then it seemed like silly for us to do it just the two of us whenever we already had formed this bond with Lisa there, and so it just everything kind of led towards that call with Float, and I think we all had appreciated Float and wanted to work with them, so it worked out perfectly, and we had a lot of great work come in for that call, and we spent hours and hours on Zoom together after, and that was like a testing ground of like, can we work together apart? Because that's the difficult thing with this, is like, we have to meet on Zoom, and it's like, I think we all did that a lot a few years ago, and there comes a point where you don't want to do it so much, but this was like our relationship was important enough that it felt like totally worth doing, and that worked so well that that was the point where we thought we can keep this going and turn it into something more permanent.
Yeah, it was really exciting, like, to keep that going, because I think one of the things that we talked about that night when we stayed out really late, we talked about a lot of stuff, and a lot of it was random, but one of the things that we all were missing was being able to talk about work, whether it was ours or other people's. I think we just all are really curious and interested in a lot of different things. And so when the Float opportunity came around, we did spend a lot of time looking through that work and talking about it. And we all come in with such different points. Some are similar, but some of our the disparate part, we all come at it in different ways, but it seems to work together really well. And we get excited. That's part of it.
Yeah. So you touched on it. Is the title because the three of you personally do things differently and in terms of your work, or is it because you're open to very different things?
I would say a little bit of both, but starting it, I think I was the one that originally brought kind of the word into play here. And what I was thinking of, kind of looking at the landscape of photography, and kind of you can see little schools of thought and bubbles and groups that kind of form of photographers that do very similar things. And I think we realized very quickly that we had similar ideas about what we wanted out of like life generally and work from the kind of conceptual side. But as far as like what work looks like or how you get there, we all did have different approaches. And I appreciated starting something that Lisa's going to bring in people that are very different than what I'm looking at. And we didn't want just another group that kind of replicates itself over and over again, which is fine for those groups, but that was not what we wanted. We wanted to carve out something that was fresh and bringing new things in, that bouncing ideas off of each other in ways that were a little unexpected, maybe.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things I want to hit on, because this is something other people might be thinking about, right? There's a need, especially after school, but it's at different points in your life where you kind of lose that feedback. You kind of lose that ability just to be in this sort of group or have the kind of energy you need to keep going. You want to just show work and not just to, sometimes you do, of course, but not just to people you think might want to publish you, or people you think might want to show with, or something you just want to show people without any real expectations other than maybe some brutal honesty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the most difficult things about forming a collective, which is really a business, right? You're forming a business, is distribution of decision making and roles, and keeping the momentum going, and not letting your own life and your own things that are going on sort of get in the way of getting things accomplished. And I'm not just talking about the homecoming biennial, Eric. No. But it's tough. It's tough to keep the momentum of these things going. So can you talk a little bit about sort of those foundational moments, those moments when we're trying to bring everything together, and also a little bit more about the mission as well?
I think so. We're operating on a consensus model, I think, overall. We're not putting a foot forward unless everyone agrees with it. And that being said, I think we've kind of checked where we are with our roles and things like that. Micah has led, starting the website. I have, reached out to do a lot of discovery for other artists and things like that, and looking for opportunities. But it's really kind of just a decision of someone has an idea and expresses it, brings it to the group, and there's this kind of mulling over whether or not we think it's right for the project and what we want to explore with that. And and obviously every idea that a person brings to the table obviously might not be fit for the group, and then it's an individual artist decision and things like that. But at least that's like my perspective on it and how I see it.
Yeah,
I think that's right. But something that I wanted from the beginning with this was that I didn't want this to ever be something that wasn't fun. Like, if we weren't enjoying this and it wasn't bringing good things into each of our lives, like, that wasn't going to be something that interested me. And so I tried to, foster that within it. And I think we've all kind of everything we've done has been stuff that we really believe in and want to do. And as far as keeping momentum going, that's part of the beauty of having the three of us, is like, whenever somebody's a little slower or busier with things in life, somebody else can take over. Like so we did do one bigger book project that I'm sure talk a little bit about later, but like, whenever that, we did a Kickstarter for that, and there was a point during the kind of crunch time for getting that Kickstarter live that my wife and I were moving, had our whole lives packed up, all of that, and so a lot of things I had been working on for it. It was.
Oh, I think Micah froze a little bit. So, Lisa, why don't you jump in?
Wait, I think he's back.
Oh, Mike, are you back? Oh, finish that story about with your wife.
Yeah, I was just so we were moving and had everything packed up, and I just had, it was the kind of thing where I had things I'd said I was going to do, and wasn't going to be able to happen because like life just got in the way. And I remember one night Lisa contacting me and being like, "Do you want me to like get on Instagram and post and do the stuff that I had been doing?" And it was like such a relief because I didn't want to let everybody down. But just with that kind of thing, that's the beauty of we respect each other and really enjoy working together. And I never feel like with anything that we're ever doing this alone. So that helps keep the momentum going, because we're always on the lookout for whatever the next thing is and helping support each other.
Yeah.
It's funny that you said, Lisa, when he froze, because I was actually going to finish it the same way he was telling it. Because I remember that night he was in the middle of moving and I was at a volleyball game, wasn't I, for my daughter? And I was like, hold on, I'll be home in like 45 minutes and then I'll do that. But I think that I agree with everything that Vann and Micah has said. And I think that it's just figuring out, I think that as with anything like this, with three people that are, living far away and have such, and have different things happening at different times. There's a lot going on, and there's a learning curve to it. And I think, we've been figuring it out pretty well with all of the things that we've had kind of in the fire, because we all have a lot of ideas and they all come fast and you can only do so much. So it's like, we have to kind of balance those things out. And I think that we kind of focus on what has to come first and then try to help each other out with those things.
Yeah. We can talk a little bit about the book. So you had this collaboration with Photo Magazine, and you have your first book published. Congratulations. And just before we get to that book, what are some of the other sort of ideas or things you think you want to do? Like physical show, curations, what else? Yeah.
So we have in between those things, we've done some more curation with, for example, Midwestern Nice Art. We've done one. I think we did another one with Float. Right now we're curating the Curated Fridge 2026 winter show. So we're staying busy with that. I think like in the very beginning, that's kind of was the impetus for the group, was curation in exhibition form. I think like, at least with what I'm interested in exploring next, and I think there's some consensus around it, is continuing publishing books, but also, we're talking about physical shows, whether or not that's our work. We've thrown that idea around, but also the work of others. I think Micah has some really interesting ideas about maybe also how to expand into maybe workshops he had mentioned, but I'll let him talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that a big thing with all of this is that photography can be expensive to do the way, like if you get into publishing, you realize how much artists are fronting on printing books, that kind of thing. So it was important to us to find ways to make this sustainable for ourselves and for the artists we work with. And so that's where like we did a Kickstarter for our first book, and that went really well. And so that was a good like kind of proving ground. We chatted with Donna Sterling, who had successfully kickstarted her book and done really well, and she gave us lots of great tips. And so that was a good kind of proving ground of like, we can do this and make it in a way where the artist isn't in debt afterwards or sitting on a bunch of books that they paid for, and you have all this pressure. Like, we were able to break even very quickly, and
break even
break even with a large stock of books that we can now get out there and spread into the world. So
I was really celebrating. That's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like with that, then thinking of other ways that we can continue to kind of build the community and meet artists, that sort of thing, but also find ways that you can fund things without asking a lot of anybody. Like I see a lot of workshops that look good, but you look and it's 10 grand to go or something, and it just becomes inaccessible. So something I would like to do going forward is start building some workshops that are a little more affordable, and also could then be funneling some of what you make out of that back into this. Like that's kind of been our main goal of this, is everything we do, we want to feed into the next project. And I don't think any of us have illusions that we're going to, make it big, getting rich off of this. I think this is all about the ability to work together and get to that next project.
Yeah, I think we should talk a little bit about the book. So this is Fractured, Christiaan Lopez-Miro. Am I saying that right? Or Miro? Miro. If it's okay with you, I can post a little slideshow of the book later on for people to look at. But in terms of the book, there's of course many decisions to be made, right? How you connect with a person, or how they reach out to you, how you decide about funding. You mentioned the Kickstarter. finding the printer, all those things, and of course the least of which is not editing, right, and selecting. So talk a little bit about that process of selecting Christiaan and working with Christiaan and not publishing your own books to start out with, right? How did that all shake out?
Yeah, I think I can just jump in real quick in terms of talking about Christiaan. So Christiaan is from he's from Miami originally, but I met him in Durham, North Carolina, where I'm from and went to grad school. I just, saw his work on Instagram and really appreciated it and liked how he was looking at the American South, which is something near and dear to my heart. And so I thought that was fresh and in a way that didn't, wasn't really, hasn't been touched upon. So I reached out to him and we started a friendship, first of all. It wasn't immediately like, hey, let's do a book. It's basically just hanging out. I met his family, he met my family. And I just kind of started from there. And so he had moved up to the Durham, Chapel Hill area, I want to say 5 or 6 years ago. And his work previous to this is completely different from the book that you have now, the work in the book that you have now. The work previous has been more of a kind of set piece project where he's decided exactly what the book's going to be about beforehand, or the project's going to be about beforehand, and goes out and executes it. This work is more Fractured is more representative of a kind of let's call it a reactionary approach to photography, where you're kind of responding to the environment you find yourself in. And so the work you have is the representation of his response to his new home in North Carolina and his entanglement and digestion of the American South.
Yeah, but in terms of deciding what to do for that first book, where did that idea come from, and then figuring out how to go proceed after that?
I think essentially Vann had been working with Christiaan on the edit of kind of where he was at with the project, and they'd been doing that. And I think Christiaan had in mind that he'd like to do a book, but it wasn't like we said we were going to do it or anything like that. It was just two friends, kind of working through his work. And so at some point, whenever we were kind of looking for what's our first thing that we're going to dip our toes in here, and Vann kind of showed us the work and had brought it to me and Lisa and kind of was like, how do you feel about this? Do you see something here that we could do collectively? And so we both liked the work a lot right away, and of course trusted Vann. So we had a call with Christiaan where the three of us got on and kind of just talked it out and talked about what he was wanting out of things. And I think from there, everything felt right. So there was no, I don't know that there was ever even a moment really where we're like, okay, we're going to do this. It was just the next thing kept happening organically to where there was never a point where it didn't feel right.
I'll throw in too that one of the shots that you just showed was also something that we curated into the first curatorial project we did for Float with Dani. And I can remember Christiaan coming into that call, and I was going to say the same thing as Micah. It was really organic because I don't even think we had to make a decision. I think we just went for it after that. But he came into that call with so much work that was great, and I think we all were sold right away that was what we should do. Yeah.
There must have been some learning curve, right? Of how this is done. Did any of you have experience with publishing a monograph before?
I had published a small artist book of some work that I made in Oaxaca, Mexico in 2022. I worked with a small publisher in Denver. Her name is Vera Benshop, and she's the the proprietor brain trust around Ben Shop Books, and that book we only made 50 copies, but she took it. She goes around to various book fairs, and luckily someone from Tufts Museum of Fine Art bought it for their special collection and to collect it. And that was really, so, it had some really nice luck there. So in terms of like a little bit of it, yes, but only so much, right? Like a lot of it was us kind of figuring it out. But I think, Micah has, I think, had some experience also with publishing books with a previous job.
Yeah, I had done some work with another publisher, and was kind of an upstart publisher similar to what we're doing. But I learned a lot, but also, through that process, learned that I only wanted to do this with friends. Like it took the fun out of it, having it be a job, and so that was important to me. But I got just enough experience that I know my way around enough just to get started, and we're still learning every step of the way, really. But and going to Columbia College Chicago, like that's a very book centric program, and I studied with Paul D'Amato and Kelly Connell, who have their own publishing imprint, and got to see behind the scenes some things there and that kind of thing. So I had an idea, of kind of what went into it, but it's definitely, every step of the way is doing it yourself is always a new version of it, even if you've kind of seen it done before.
Yeah. In terms of then the idea of what kind of books you are open to, do you see this? Do you see Disparate Projects as having a certain style of photography, genre, post-documentary style, or is this as grow as things come along? That's how things will be decided. Too early to tell, maybe.
I think it's definitely just from how well things went with the first book and how it happened organically. I think that is the way we see it going forward. I don't think that our intention for this is to, put out an open call for we want to publish your book, and I want it to happen naturally. And I think so much of what I see in kind of this industry is kind of like a transactional kind of thing where somebody already has some clout and someone else is trying to kind of like, you do have the book publishing company that's successful, so I want you to publish our book. And I don't want it to be that. I want it to be like we connect, and this is something we want to do together, and very much a collaboration. And like with this book, I always felt like Christiaan was very open to all of our suggestions, and we worked well together to where I don't think it would work well if that dynamic was changed, because for us, I think that's the way that things will work within the philosophy of kind of how we've set out already.
Yeah. Just to underline that, I think like we want to work with artists who want to work with us in a way that is fluid and open. I don't think we're really, and this, could change, and maybe I'm speaking out of place or out of turn, but I think that we want to work with artists who are, who are open to interpretation of their own work, who don't necessarily have a set in stone, like who aren't coming with us with 60, 70 images and saying this is what it's going to be. The book, Christiaan's book, I think was something like over 700 images. And so we whittled all the way through that, and he obviously you have your babies, and there were some images I was like, yeah, I don't think these should go in, but obviously Christiaan was like, they're going in, and they're in there. So
There's some of those, but there are. I know whenever you two had whittled it down to probably 150, something like that, before it was brought to the wider group. But I know we had some discussions where there was a few images that me and Lisa were not so sure about, and some of those stayed in because it was important to him, and I totally understand that. And it is a collaboration, and but there were definitely. There were a few images that we said, love this image, but there's something about it that's not working for us. And there were things that he still had the ability to even reshoot. So we even were editing to that level where he was going out and making new work based on the conversations we were having, which was a really great experience. I think we all really benefited from that, and kind of seeing that whole thing happen. Some of my favorite images from the book came about after we had started talking about this, like the final book project that we wanted to do.
Yes, I remember he added in a few at the end there after we went through it, and in particular, I remember the door with the light and the horse with the mouth or the teeth that were added in at the end. But when I think back about all of the different things that were tossed around, it's kind of crazy, like to think about how many things we went back and forth on. But to echo what they're both saying, I don't think that a formulaic approach would work. At all for us. With it was really open dialogue the whole time. But Vann and Christiaan did go through a lot of images in the beginning.
I think it was Brian Scottman, and I may have this wrong, who said, I want to work with someone that I'd also be okay having a beer with. And this is it's very intimate to go through somebody's work and to cut things out and rearrange things and put things back together again. And there has to be trust going both ways in a project like that.
Yeah, it's been good to see from the other side of this too, because it can be hard when you're trying to get your work out there and it feels like, oh, this person, you're in a portfolio review and somebody looks at your work and goes, I really like it. And then you go, well, like, why aren't we doing something together? And it's like, there's so much more to this. And seeing from the other side, there's people only have so much time, and so that's why I think it's been good for all of us, and just our approach to our making art in general, kind of seeing how this works on the other side of things, and that you have to make the work that you want to make and let it find the people that really are going to care the most about it and want to work with you, and not try to force things just because you want to make something happen. Because I think we all have to get our work out there and try to get it in front of people and be present, but also understand that like a lot of this takes time and you have to build relationships. And that's why this has been so successful, the three of us together, is because we did have a beer together before and see how things work when we just start talking, and it all flows well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Why don't we'll wrap up in a little bit, but let's talk a little bit more about each of you in terms of your own work and your own processes. Lisa, is it fair to say that you have a bit more on the experimental side of the work in the group?
That's very fair. Yeah.
I like to understate things, as you know.
Yeah, it is an understatement. Yes, I would say so. And it's gotten more and more that way for me. I mean, I use like images to brainstorm, but then I use them for something else. So yes.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about what you're working on.
I don't even know how to explain that right now. So, I mean, I started by really just focusing. It was funny when I started like my MFA program. I started with making straight photography work, just like sort of documentary, but there was something about it that I couldn't really like explain, and it kind of moved into other things. And what I figured out by the end was that what I'm always wanting to do is match concept to process to form. And it does have a lot to do with literature and actually music too. But it's like I get this big umbrella idea and I have to invent something that matches it visually and creatively. So I guess the thing that I'm working on something new now, but I have no idea what it's going to be. And that's the most frustrating place for me to be at. I know what the main umbrella idea is, but I can't even like explain it without sounding really weird. But the last thing that I was working on was like kind of keeps and discards from memory, along with this idea of insistence that I kind of got obsessed with in grad school. And it was a Gertrude Stein idea. And she made like word portraits. And I started to want to make I started to get really depressed about the fact that things were always, like I hear a lot about, things going away and disappearing and just life being fragile. And I wanted to think about what stuck around. So I started a body of work called Because It's There, where I started to do little cuts, like 0.5 centimeter cuts, and reconstructing them to form like kind of like found photo memories with my own landscapes included in there to mimic how memory works. And that was my Because It's There project that I've been working on still now.
Yeah.
Is that the, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it the chronostalgia one?
So that is the inverse of Because It's There, yes.
Oh.
Yeah. So those were the discards, and Because It's There were the keeps. Of memory. So yeah.
Could you share a little about your process with that and like how that that one came about for you?
Sure. So what I started to do was the process is that I would make a grid, and I would cut little 0.5 centimeter. I would use a found photo paired with a landscape photo that I made of a memory of a place that I wanted to remember. And I would kind of cut them both up into these 0.5 centimeter squares and reinsert them into each other. One would be the keeps, one would be the discards, and they're actually still photographs because I would rephotograph them. So they are photographs. They're not composites. One side of it is the Because It's There work, and the other side is the chronal nostalgia, which I guess I kind of was using as like a statement of time squeezed together, like a time sandwich. But it's interesting because it's like someone else's memories combined with mine to make one new memory. So obviously my work is pretty conceptual in nature. It's always about ideas. So the chronal nostalgia person there on the left, that's a landscape of mine with the person reinserted. The one on the right with Because It's There is a found photo with my landscapes inserted into the found photo. So that's how it's the inverse of the other.
Interesting. Do you use film or is it digital?
It's digital.
Oh.
Yeah, digital photographs. I haven't used film in a long time, but yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Micah, tell us a little bit about your work.
Yeah, the work that I kind of I'm working on putting into a book now is something I did in grad school that was kind of a constructed documentary of my family. And that has been the springboard for the idea of kind of what I'm working on now. So yeah, what's here is work from that project. And so going back a long way, a lot of this was inspired actually by like film, like the movies of like Ingmar Bergman. I love a lot of like look of it kind of comes from that, and even content wise, definitely kind of that piece. And so I've been interested in how I could kind of deconstruct like a movie. And so going forward, what I'm working on, I'm actually working on like a novella. And so I haven't been taking a lot of photos, I've been writing. And the idea is that eventually I will have photos that I make that kind of go with what I'm writing. And there will be like 2 books. And it's like you're taking the movie apart, where you have the written part and then the visuals. And the only thing missing is kind of that middle part, and it's up to the up to the viewer to kind of put it back together. So that's where I'm at now, and I'm getting closer to finishing up what I've wanted to written with the written piece, and so I'm excited about getting back into the photos going forward. And I have a lot of like in my head like what I want to make, and it's just a matter of getting them done. And I'm also really excited about this just with within this collective, because working on the written part of it, I think Vann and Lisa both, that's important to them, like words and books and all of that, to where having that sounding board is going to be great, because like the last work that I made, a lot of it was done while I was in grad school, and I had 12 people all the time that I was running ideas up against. And I think that's been that was after getting out of grad school, was one of the hardest things, figuring out where to go next, was not having that built in. And so this has been good for that, and a good, like, not a substitute. It's better in a way, I think.
Yeah, you're really taking that tableau idea and diving deep into it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that your work reads. It reminds me, not to compare artists, but it reminds me of Cindy Sherman and her like film stills. Very like reminiscent of that. Do you have any ideas of how you eventually, because you have a written piece, how you want to present it? Do you want to put it in a book, or do you think you'll have like a movie type way?
This is that's what's really exciting about this. And as we learn more about the publishing world and how we can pull this off, like I know with the project I had before, I had chatted with in like portfolio reviews. Actually, I had a few really good ones at the homecoming, where at that point I kind of had the pictures done, and I had a book I brought with some poetry and things that I wanted to mix up. And I had one reviewer, or a few reviewers actually, both say like, this should be like a separate book, but I could see it going together. And so that's where, as we kind of investigate things, I could definitely see something where we have a slipcase, with a book and with a photo book, and they're kind of separate, but there's some interplay. I think that would be an interesting way to go.
Yeah, that seems really fun.
Yeah. And Vann, tell us about your work, and I'll bring up your website as well. I'm sorry I didn't ask you guys if I could do that while I was doing it. Go ahead, Vann.
Okay, almost made it all the way through without forgetting. I knew I was going to do it. All right. So yeah, the work this first project, On Contentious Ground, it's a work I've been working on since 2019. When I was a child, I was infatuated with the history around the Civil War. American propaganda did its number on me as a kid, and I believed America was just so amazing, and I couldn't understand how we fought each other in this war. And so, On Contentious Ground, if you let me go
to that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So basically what I'm doing is I'm going to Civil War battle sites and documenting the people who are there. So I'm interested in who's there, what do these sites look like now, and why are they there? What does that look like? I've done a good amount of writing for this, and I talk about, what essentially I'm doing is I'm measuring the long shadow the Civil War has cast onto today. Kind of topical with things that have happened in the last, 5 or so years here, with the nation being divided along a lot of fault lines, not only race, but economic as well. So that's what I'm doing here. This work is coming to an end. I show this work. This work has been in a few solo exhibitions. It will be a book. I'm working with I won't name the university, but I'm in conversation with the university press to publish this.
Nice.
So it's not going to be like a monograph exactly, because that's a little boring, I think. Everyone's I got my monograph. I'm going to have essays in this book that kind of ground its context and its importance in terms of the historical milieu, in terms of like just par excellence history, in terms of the Civil War, but also photographic history. The Civil War is, a huge monolith in photography. And so how is this work in conversation with what work has been done already about the Civil War? And so, and then obviously, why am I making it? So these will be the 3 essays that are in that book.
Yeah. Yeah. You all have, I guess, again, some different ideas about the way text works in a book. And that is, I think, the endless question for people who are publishing books, right?
Yeah, totally. That was something in grad school. Every time I would show work, and I would mention that there's the textual element. It'd be like everybody has a different opinion on what works there and what you should do, and I went through the bobbing back and forth of like whoever I last talked to. I'm like, that seems like a good idea. And then I had to finally figure out what really suits yourself and what suits the work. But
yeah. Lisa, I don't know if you mentioned text that much with your work. How do you think about text with your work?
Well, I definitely think that there will be text involved with my work. And the thing is that everything that I do, I mean, I'm just coming at it from a different angle right now. I have 2 book ideas kind of going right now. And one has to do with a body of work on my website that is called Full Court Press. And it's sort of documenting my children and their friends. And it's kind of like, it is related to literature too. It's that whole coming of age Bildungsroman genre, where, there's a point of no return where you sort of cross into that threshold of adulthood and you can't really look back. So I have saved a whole bunch of artifacts for that. And I do a whole bunch of writing as well. I'm just trying to put it together.
Yeah. So we are getting close to the hour here. Dani is going to ask the lightning round questions.
Oh.
So she'll ask the one question, then all 3 of you can respond to each question one after the other. You all ready? All right. Should we? Maybe we should pick an order so there's no confusion. We'll do Lisa, Vann, Micah. All right. Or did you not want to go first, Lisa?
I'll go first. It's fine.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Dani.
Okay. What's a historical photographer you wish you could have photographed with? Could be still alive or maybe out of reach. Sorry, I can't read.
It's okay.
Sorry, I sprang this on Dani just in the moment because I'm that kind of person. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So for me, it's a weird one. It's a relative of mine, the one that I just found out about. His name's Leon Bertram Strout. I'm going to go with him. He documented Mid-Coast Maine. He is having they're doing a posthumous show of his at Bowdoin next semester. And that's who I am going to photograph with.
Wow. Good answer.
I would, my photo hero is Walker Evans, so it would be Walker Evans. Kind of, that's it. But so the grad school I went to, Duke University, it was founded in part by one of his students, and so I feel like there's a certain photo lineage that I would like to tap into in person.
Sure.
I'd go with Wayne Miller. His work in Chicago I love, and after being in Chicago, that work meant a lot to me. And then his work in Family of Man was like my favorite stuff from that. And then he kind of created a body of work that kind of jumped off that, like as his kids grew up. And I took a lot of inspiration from how he shows family, and there's really no nostalgia. It's like all in the moment, and it's to me it gives you really deep feelings, but it also is like in the moment, which I love.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. Contemporary photographer that you would like to photograph with.
So someone a little more in reach.
All right. I'm going to go with Sally Mann. Love Sally Mann's work, and I love her writing and her thoughts on creativity, art, and life. And obviously, I love to hold still. And right now, I just started artwork on a creative life. And a lot of the things that she says are things that I think, but don't say all the time. So, and I really love her work, just her and how she does it. So I'm with Sally.
I just want to say I'm also I just started that book too recently, and I also love it. But I'm not going to say Sally Mann. Before I went to grad school, a really good friend of mine, I'm going to shout him out, Stan Cecina, lived in the Durham area, and him and I would go everywhere in North Carolina and make photographs. And he got a job as a staff photographer in Gary, Indiana, and that's where he's working right now. And I would love to just have a few hours hanging out with him on the street making photographs. I would love that.
Nice.
I'm joining Lisa with Sally. I thought a lot about her while I was making the work I made, because we were on like a family farm and I'm taking pictures of my kids, and it was very different. But also, I don't know that I would have. I don't know. It was important to me, and I think also I would want to hang out with Vann and Lisa and take photos, really, like first and foremost. Like, I think that's so bringing them in with Sally sounds like a great day.
Let's just go on a group photo tour.
That's right.
Okay, third one. What's your favorite piece of equipment that you use?
Photographic or otherwise.
Okay.
All right.
Related to your practice.
Mine's different. It is my knife. It's my good old, I brought it. It's my good old Olfa X-Acto knife. I use this all the time right now, and it has to be a very specific type of knife. So that is related to what I'm making photographically, and that's my choice.
Olfa's the classic.
My favorite.
I'm going to say my 4x5 Bush Pressman. That camera, I made most of the on-contentious groundwork with it, and it's so compact, great field camera. I love it to death.
I would go with my Hasselblad. Like everything. If I use a different camera, it's because it does something different in relation that forces me. Like my default is like that square, and so if I'm doing some work with 4x5 now, and it's like anytime I'm composing, I'm thinking in relation to the square, and then what I want to add to the square.
Nice. All right, last one.
Okay, favorite food or type of place to eat when you take a break from photographing?
It's easy for me. Just Chicago style pizza.
Oh, wait, deep dish or thin?
Yeah.
Deep dish.
Oh.
I like thin too. I actually love both. I could go either or, it just depends on the day, but with extra cheese.
Mm-hmm.
I've just been in New York City for the last 6 months, and I've got some pretty big pizza snob friends, and they would say that Chicago pizza is not pizza. But I disagree with them. No, I lived in Seoul, South Korea for 2 years, and I fell in love with Korean barbecue and the culture around a shared meal and a lot that goes with that. And that's just, I love that. So definitely Korean barbecue.
I would go with Thai food because in grad school, we were right next to the Thai Spoon, which was our favorite place as a cohort to go after crits and the like. So I had lots of good conversations over Thai food after shooting. So that, to me, just seems like the natural, like, where I go now.
Yeah. Yeah. I am not. I mean, I think I'm a little bit of a pizza snob, but I do love Chicago deep dish in Chicago. Yes.
I like New York pizza too. So
Hold on, Michael, New York or Connecticut?
Oh, so I'm Jersey now. Jersey. I mean, obviously, Connecticut.
What's Jersey pizza?
Well, down here we have tomato pie, which is an interesting pizza. It's typically sauce on top of the cheese, but there's also a mustard pie that's here. That's very unusual.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
Trenton tomato pie is what we're known for down here. I live, in the north, and that's straight up regular pizza. But I believe Connecticut, Brooklyn in particular, North Jersey, Trenton tomato pie, all very good pizza. Yes, and Chicago deep dish. Dani, any opinion on that?
I mean, I'm born and raised in Jersey, so I can only say Jersey's pizza is the best.
Well, this has been really fun. Thank you.
Thank you
all.
for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, this is
I
great.
really appreciate it.
Yeah. So, and thank you for those who joined the live stream. I'm going to go ahead and stop the live stream now. Thank you, Dani, for Julia, my regular co-host here at the gallery. I couldn't be here. Dani jumped in and filled in, and thank you.
Usually I'm behind the scenes.
Yeah, Dani's usually operating and make sure everything is working. So I hope everything was working because I don't know if anyone was checking. All right. I'm going to thank you all on YouTube.
Thank
Say
you.
Bye. Real Photo Show is produced by me, Michael Chovan-Dalton. Music by Matteo Chovan-Dalton and Jim Raimundo. If you like the show, please rate and review with all the stars on your listening platform.